In American society, money is a taboo topic. We're taught at a young age it's improper to talk about it, but we're also bombarded with messages about the power and importance of money in our everyday lives. And by not talking about it, we miss out on the skills and lessons we need to effectively understand and financially plan. That changes today. Welcome to Money Tales. Hosted by Sandy Brager and Cami Doder, Money Tales brings more than 35 years of combined professional experience in personal finance to demystify money and demonstrate what it's like to speak openly about personal financial matters. Join us each episode as they interview modern-day movers and shakers about how money decisions intertwine with their daily lives in order to give you better insight into productive financial conversations. Subscribe today and register for our blog Fathom at aspiriant.com/podcasts to increase your money mojo. And now, here's Cami and Sandy.
This episode is about the difference between working hard and working smart. Bronson Hill is our guest this week on Money Tales. From delivering newspapers in the rain to earning $15 an hour in high school, Bronson learned early on that trading time for money wasn't the path to wealth. His real breakthrough came years later when Bronson realized money isn't just about the hours you work, it's a tool to create value, help others, and transform lives. Let me tell you a little more about Bronson. He is the managing member of Bronson Equity. In addition, Bronson hosts the Mailbox Money Show, where he breaks down the investor mindset. Bronson is also the author of the best-selling book, Fire Yourself: Replace Your Working Income with Passive Income in 3 years or less.
Here are 3 key money topics Bronson hits on in this conversation. First, the quarterly retreat routine he's created. The retreats have become a ritual of reflection that allows Bronson to step back, reflect on business, and assess whether he's getting the results he wants to create in all areas of his life. Second, how fully engaging in money conversations, being vulnerable, and admitting your mistakes allows everyone to lean in, learn, and connect. And third, the transformation that unfolds when people achieve financial freedom and allow their money to start working for them. Now it's our pleasure to bring you Bronson Hill's Money Tales.
Welcome to the Money Tales podcast. I'm Cami Doder.
And I'm Sandy Brager.
Sandy, Roland, and I, my husband, for those who are listeners, we're about to embark on a small construction project at our home.
How exciting. How small is it?
In the grand scheme of things, it's pretty small. A couple of things that we've been wanting to do. Our first challenge was finding a contractor that would show up for a small job. Hard to do and where we live, isn't it? They would show up, they'd say, "Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, I'll be back in touch." And then they'd disappear, probably because of the size of the project. Roland and I have talked about our budget and the estimate they give you. It fits within our budget. So we're like, this is great. And again, really like this contractor. And we've spoken with people he's worked with and feel good about his quoting. Then you got to control yourself. Because I know when this thing starts, first of all, are they going to find mold? Are they going to find things that have to get fixed? Probably.
It's always a possibility.
Always a possibility. And then Sandy, will you rein me in? Because I know once we start, like, oh gosh, that got done and it looks so nice. Can we go fix this? So I get the fear of scope creep. Not even fear of, I get the concept of scope creep and I realize how easy it can be because I've already in my mind, like, yes, we need to do this and that.
It's easy to get lost in a project. From my experience, scope creep happens in 2 ways. One is just on the materials you use. So you need to make sure when you're putting your budget together that you're thinking through the cost of materials. The other is going outside of the room or rooms that you're focused on and then letting that drip into other parts of the house. I'm happy to be your accountability partner.
Thank you, Sandy. And I love that I use the word need. I need to fix something. It's like, no, this house is fantastic. There's no needs there. So yes, please hold me accountable.
I will do that. And there is something about making changes to make the home even more comfortable and to your liking. People don't tend to remodel rooms or areas of their home very often. So you do want to get it right.
I really appreciate you saying that. You're right. And it is special. And we've lived here for a long time. Doesn't feel like I'm being too spontaneous with this change.
I can't wait to see when it's done.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome our Money Tales guest, Bronson Hill. It's wonderful to be talking with you today.
Hey, it's great to be here. Excited. I love talking money stories, and money is so interconnected to so many parts of our lives, as you mentioned, whether it's a remodel or it's anything that we're working on. So it's great to talk about money.
Bronson, would you briefly introduce yourself and share a couple pivotal moments that really influenced who you are today?
My name is Bronson Hill. I'm the CEO of Bronson Equity. We basically help people get passive income through different investments that we do. And I also am the author of this book behind me here called Fire Yourself: How to Replace Your Working Income with Passive Income in 3 years or Less. I have a podcast called the Mailbox Money Show. So different things we do to educate on money. And a pivotal story for me, how I learned about money. I grew up in a single parent home with 4 kids. So I was the second born of 4 kids. And I watched my older brother do paper routes in Seattle, Washington, where I grew up. And he was able to save up at age 16 enough to buy his own car. He saved $4,000, able to buy his own car. And I saw that and I was like, wow, I want to do that. And so I ended up starting paper routes when I was 14. So every day, afternoons, after school, and in the weekends, it was in the morning. Even if I stayed up till 1 a.m. roller skating on a Friday night, on Saturday morning, I'd be out there delivering newspapers, come hell or high water, rain, snow, it didn't matter. And it really taught me a lot. I learned a lot about responsibility. I learned a lot about, hey, if I work hard, I actually can do well with that. And actually, it's interesting how paper routes were also part of Warren Buffett's story. I studied a lot of Warren Buffett stuff, and he did many paper routes in the morning. And it's just amazing when you're a kid and you realize your efforts of working hard and working smart can generate cash. And so it was just that connection. A lot of kids don't have the opportunity to actually make that. They get handouts from parents, and it's hard if you're affluent. For my daughter, how do I teach her about money when we have more than we did when I was a kid? Those are interesting topics to get into.
Absolutely. I'm curious, with your family, were you all talking about money, or was it more being demonstrated? Like you saw your brother make this money and then, oh, we have a beautiful new car or a car. Was it part of the conversation, or was it more being demonstrated?
I think it was more demonstrated. My dad, a single dad, so it's kind of an unusual story in that sense, but very middle class, had a Christian college, was a professor, but we didn't really make a lot of money. But I think it was just more my brother talking about what he was doing, how he was working. My dad really celebrated hard work. I've learned hard work is great, but also smart work is great too. And if your money works for you, if you make money while you sleep, that's the best kind of hard work that you didn't work for. In general, I saw it really modeled by my older brother. There was a lot of frugality. There were some sayings that weren't as helpful. I think money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that. But I think when I started to make that connection was really when I started working and just having some responsibility. So it was maybe an hour a day each day of the year, and making a couple $100 a month, $50 a month at the time wasn't a lot of money. Well, for me, it was a ton of money. My allowance was $2 a week or something minimal. So the idea of like going to that was like, wow, I'm rich.
And you were at the time, I'm sure. Tell us how you brought that experience into your transition into adult life.
Growing up, making the connection between hard work and trying to find a way to generate more income. I had a job when I was in high school where I sold cell phones. It was kind of a Best Buy place, but we were on commission. And so I went from my job between the paper route and selling cell phones was working at McDonald's. And so working the drive through there, as much as I enjoyed getting free food at McDonald's, I was like, man, this is hard work. There's a lot here. And so I found this job where I was on commission, and I was able to, again, be less of a time for money trade. A lot of times, no matter, even if we're physicians, a lot of times we're trading minutes for dollars. And that's not a great way to become wealthy, the time for money trade. There was a way that I actually could sell and create value, create more value than just what I get paid on an hourly. And I averaged about $15 an hour. And at the time in high school, that was amazing. I was an adult. I've done a lot of different things. I was a youth pastor for a number of years. And again, money is not my primary motivator, but money is a tool to really get what you want and help others get what they want. It's a tool you can use to really impact the world as well as live a better life. That's really the world you guys live in. It's just making sure that there's enough money there when you need it. I look at it like a stewardship, and even ties in with my faith of just, we've got a limited amount of what we have. And if we do well with it, we can generate more, we can give it, we can use it to go buy a house or go travel or do the things that we really value. Over time, the more you learn about money and the more you learn about creating not just hard work. There's a lot of people that work very hard, work double shifts and different things, but they don't make a lot of money. It's continuing to evaluate, is what I'm doing really getting me toward my goals, or do I need to change something about what I'm doing?
Did you do that evaluation?
Yeah. Once a quarter, I go away for a couple of days and I reflect on my business for a couple of nights. We'll just think, well, am I getting the results that I want to get out of my life? And I think it works with money. I think it works with everything. There's been some honest conversations the last few years of, okay, I enjoy this, or this is what I'm doing, but is this actually generating the results I want? They're not all monetary. Sometimes I want a result I want more time with my daughter. We'll go on trips. We'll go camping. I want more of those, or I want more social types of things. And so I have to really think about what my goals are and really decide, am I getting the results out of my life that I want to? And so this applies to money, but it also applies to different things as well. What is the result that I want to create? And if I'm not creating it, then I'm responsible for trying something different.
Bronson, hearing you speak, it sounds like you're really taking a values-based approach and you're overlaying that on all different aspects of your life. When did you move in that direction? From what you shared early on in life, you were motivated by money that you were earning and quickly learned in high school that you could earn money in ways that wasn't related to the amount of time you were spent doing in an activity. Tell us about that evolution.
When I was a kid, there was this cartoon. It was called DuckTales. Scrooge McDuck was this guy who had literally swimming pools full with gold coins, and he would swim in the gold. He would do the backstroke in there, and he loved his money. It was all about just having piles and piles of money. To me, that's never been what wealth is. Wealth is just simply, hey, we have a limited amount of time here. Hopefully we leave the world a better place, those people around us better. And it does come from a place of values. It comes from a place of faith, a place of what's my purpose? What am I put on this earth to do? And if I can do those things, then those things will help. So more money will help me in my desire to end modern day human slavery in the world. There's 20 to 40 million human slaves. That's one of the reasons I feel like I've been put on this earth, is to help to work in that cause and try to end that. Now, I think that there's a lot of people in the wealth space that talk about called the yachts and Mai Tai lifestyle, which sounds great, or going on vacation all the time. And I do travel quite a bit, but there's something that's devoid of purpose. And there's one of my favorite quotes is, without vision, people perish. So if I don't have a vision for my life, if I don't have a value for my life that's stronger than just getting more stuff or doing more things, in a way, I'm starting to die inside, because I just don't have any other purpose. And the choices I make, the things I'm doing, what's the point of all this, right? What am I actually doing here? And so I think there has to be a strong value around money. What is it for? If it's just about creating more for yourself, to me, that just feels kind of empty. There's no trickle down versus, hey, I want to provide for my family. I want to be able to give to causes I believe in. 65, 70% of people are not engaged at work. A lot of times it's because they don't feel like they're really doing what they're passionate about. They're doing what they have to do to make ends meet, and not what they want to do, not what makes them come alive. And I think that's really tragic. If you're financially free, you have a choice then. How do you want to live your life? And I think that's one of the most amazing things that happens when people become financially free, when their money starts working for them. And I know you see this and you help clients with this as well, is that they actually find, well, what actually do I want to do? What do I feel like is my passion? And what can I create from that? So it is all from a place of values.
Do you think you've always had jobs where you've been following your passion, even though you've changed and now you've launched Bronson Equity and done books and whatnot? Have you always followed this purpose mindset?
There have been trade-offs. I think there's been a time I was in medical sales for 10 years, and there's part of that I really enjoyed. It was a challenge. I want to see if I can do it. But there's a part of, I think, in sales where you can give up a bit of yourself. You can become who the situation needs to be rather than authentically who you are. And that's where I think the last 5-7 years, I discovered the work of Brené Brown, who wrote a number of books, one called The Gifts of Imperfection. It's become my favorite book of all time. And it has this idea of, can you live an authentic life? Can you live from a place of values, a place that you let go of what people think to just be who you are? It's definitely a journey. I feel like now I'm much more aligned. I'm living out the values that I want. I'm living out the life that I want. Is everything perfect? No. Are there challenges? Of course. Much more than in the past. I don't have to try to just simply be what other people want me to be. I can really show up and be fully expressed and share who I am, and share when things go well, hey, we're excited. When things don't go well, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I really share the things that matter and really let people know from a values place where I'm at.
Bronson, that sounds really cool and amazing that a book could inspire so much thought. Tell us more about this transition out of medical sales into a different path, and go deep on the money aspects of it. I know there's a lot of other considerations that were leading you at the time, but what was happening from a money perspective when you were leaving that role?
I was married for 9 years, and I went through a divorce about 8 years ago. So it's something I don't recommend. It's not fun to go through a divorce. That's a whole other story for another day. When I went through that, I really started to look at my life and just get more philosophical about it. What am I here to do? What's my purpose? What are the things that if I'm 80 years old, that I'll look back and say, I wish I'd tried this. I wish I'd done that. For me, a big thing was being in medical sales. It was the golden handcuffs. So I was making over $200,000 a year. I was working probably 30 hours a week. My whole family, nobody's entrepreneurial. Everybody was like, why would you ever want to leave your great job? I didn't have control over my time. I couldn't travel how I wanted to. There was some of that was incongruent with just who I wanted to show up as. There's some big personalities in the medical field, big egos, and the way I had to show up wasn't quite as authentic as I wanted to. I just remember that feeling of, especially approaching 40, I don't want to be 70 or 80 years old and say, I wish I'd tried to go out and do it on my own. And I knew I wanted to start my own thing, have my own business, have my own something that I can sell instead of making a lot of money for someone else. Even if I failed, but daring greatly quote, even the one who tries, even if they fail while daring greatly. Because then I thought, and I was really freaked out about it, but the money side, having a paycheck is great, but it's also kind of an addiction. I've got to have the paycheck coming in. It gets real when you're like, okay, the paycheck is stopping. And do you have enough money to actually make it work? And there's been highs, there's been lows. One thing that really helped reframe me was getting with a group of other people that were entrepreneurs, other people that were in that space that were really applying themselves. Because my whole family was like, you're crazy. Why would you ever want to leave? Well, this whole group of people, 5 or 6 other guys, they listened to my story, listened to how I made money, how I was in this business. And they said, well, you should pretty much leave as soon as possible. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to medical sales. And that was just a really great reframe for me. I think really the theme of it is, what are the things that are really important in my life that there is a chance of failing? But yet, if I didn't try, I would regret it when I'm older.
I love this idea, this group of other entrepreneurs. You come together. Tell me about this group. How did you find them? It is hard to do this on our own. It's really hard. And to have people who push us and also maybe even pull us back sometimes when we need to, I think it's really important.
There's a saying, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And it's really true in every area of life. If I want to get in better physical shape, if I hang around with people that are runners and are active, I'm generally going to probably eat a little different and do a little different activities just because I'm around them. Same with wealth or with emotional maturity or growth or other things, or even in business. So my goal is to get in rooms where people are doing 10 times the sales that I'm doing, or 10 times into personal growth that I'm in, or they're just things that I admire in them. There was a group called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a large group that's tens of thousands of members around the world. And if you have a business of a certain size, you can join, you pay a fee. And then they have a monthly group called the Forum that you get in. And for 4 hours a month, you get in, you share about your business. Other people share about their lives and their business. Some of it's personal, some of it's business. So I was just able to share. And so being around in a place like that, all these people were the same kind of weird that I am. Why would you leave something stable to go to something that you could create? It's just something that as I've realized as I've gotten older, that's really who I am and how I'm geared, is to be an entrepreneur.
Bronson, it sounds like you were having a lot of money conversations with that group. What was that like in the beginning for you, being new to the entrepreneurial scene, having some ideas, having this job that you weren't really into? There's probably money aspects of the divorce that were part of your consideration set too.
It's hard to be really honest with people that you're getting to know. And over time, there's trust and there's things that are built. These are people that were in the place that I wanted to be in. And there was that feeling of showing up in that room. They call it imposter syndrome. Who am I to be in this room? These people are all way more successful than I am. I still have my full-time job, and these guys are full-time for years. A lot of them, they've been doing this. They have these businesses that are thriving, some of them. I think that's a very real thing. This is where I find the link between personal development and breakthrough in other parts of life. So I've literally seen it before where I have a breakthrough in my personal development in therapy and doing goal setting and whatever the thing is, and something happens. Maybe there's a conversation that I haven't had with someone, and all of a sudden I have this conversation in this other area of life, something else opens up for me. In life, I feel like we just have these invitations to growth. We have these invitations to go into things, as Brené Brown would talk about, leaning into the discomfort. This conversation is uncomfortable to have with a family member, with a former spouse, with a child, with a friend, but you lean into that, and all of a sudden there's a growth moment there. And over time, those growth moments start to compound, and all of a sudden you realize, man, this isn't my first rodeo. I can go through all these things, and we're facing things now that are way bigger challenges than what we had before. But now I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. We'll work it out. It's just funny how when you go through challenges, I'm sure you, Sandy, and Cam, you guys have had challenges as well that you can share, that's really developed your confidence in yourself to really be able to grow. So I think being in a group like that, showing up, being authentic, it really is powerful. And continue to tell yourself, hey, I belong here. It's okay. Like, I'm learning, I'm growing, and I need to be in this room. And I'm also going to benefit them as well.
Bronson, are you comfortable having money conversations?
I think so. I mean, I have a lot of money conversations.
When you meet people who are uncomfortable with it, how do you approach it? How do you get them comfortable?
I've had now over 2,500 conversations with high net worth investors worth over 2 million. A lot of times these people, they've approached us because they want to have a conversation around money. They want to talk about how to grow their wealth. They want to learn about deals, those kind of things. But it is interesting. I felt like this was such a big need. We actually started a mastermind or a paid group for people net worth over 2 million to just have these conversations with each other. Because if you're net worth of 2 to 10 million or higher, a lot of people don't talk about money. You can't talk to your family about it. You can't talk to your friends about it. You have that net worth. It's harder to find people to have those conversations with. So we should create a whole group around people that will show up and have those conversations. But I do think it is vulnerable. It is hard to say, hey, this happened and this investment didn't go well. That's a hard conversation to have. We lost money here. Or even, hey, we made money here. We did really well. We made 10x or 20x our money. But that's also hard. How do you talk about that without sounding like an egomaniac? So it's hard to talk about in a way that's just, hey, here's what happened. But I do think, again, it's leaning into those conversations because that's really how we learn. If I share about how I lost money, I share in my book, I started out doing options trading and I'd made $20,000 over, and this was a substantial amount at the time. This was years ago. And then in one day, I lost $70,000. So it was over a third of my net worth. So I learned I'm not a good options trader.
It's a good lesson, painful one.
I share that story. And some people come to me now and just say, hey, I lost money in this. I lost money in that. When you're somebody who is willing to admit mistakes, it makes you more approachable and it makes people be willing to really share and you learn more. You're actually leading by sharing something challenging. Most people don't want to talk about those things. But if you do, people are going to be drawn to you. They're going to, oh, this person's trustworthy. They talk about things that happen that are negative. It's not all sunshine and roses in the Instagram lifestyle.
That's right. You're modeling all that vulnerability, which is so important. Bronson, when did you get interested in passive investing? And for the benefit of listeners who might not be familiar with that term, could you just give a little overview?
I think when I was a teenager, I discovered Warren Buffett. I mentioned him earlier. And he has this phrase. He says, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And ironically, Warren's in his 90s and he's still working, but he talks about tap dancing to work. So he's doing it at least in a way that he likes doing it. My thought is being trapped in a job you don't like, being stuck in a business or something that you can't leave, it's not a preferable place to be. It was maybe 7, 8 years ago, I started to understand that, wow, if I just grew my income on the passive side, active income is income we work for, income we're doing. A lot of people think buying a rental house is passive investing. I don't necessarily think it is, or having an online business, trading options or stocks.
It's very active unless you're hiring someone to manage it for you.
Exactly. Yes. But people think these things are passive investments, but a passive investment really is you do some vetting, you look at the deal, you look at the team, if somebody else is doing the work and you choose at some point, okay, I'm going to invest, you send the money over and then your work is done besides getting reports and getting what we call the mailbox money that shows up every month or every quarter. That's really the goal. And I think we should all aspire as investors, as individuals to be really good at having our money make money for us. Otherwise, it's always going to be a time for money trade. It's always going to be a grind. And how do you know you've made enough that you can retire comfortably? I'm sure those are conversations you guys have and what you do, right? Talking through all that. So I think the idea of passive investing is how hard is your money working for you after you make it? Is it something that you just make it and you save it? Well, Robert Kiyosaki wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. He said savers are losers. Doesn't mean they don't have bright prospects or they're not great personalities. It just means that they're losing money. We know over time there's going to be more and more inflation. Things are going to cost more and more and more because they keep creating more currency. So if you don't have a way to buy assets that actually generate cash flow and maybe some sort of appreciation over time, you're going to continually feel behind and get behind. Your money's not going to be working for you.
And how did you get interested in that space?
Just reading as a kid, seeing stuff that was out there. I think from the paper routes and other things that I did, I just started to realize everybody that I noticed that did very well for themselves. They usually had some sort of real estate holdings. They had a business. They had some other thing that they could do. And it's not about yachts and Mai Tai lifestyle or being lazy, but it's about, hey, what am I here to do? And if you have enough income coming in, then you can create. And so for me, there's writing books with songwriters while writing songs, traveling, spending time with family. Those are all things that were very appealing to me. And this is the thing I think a lot of people don't realize. And we talk about this in my book, Fire Yourself. People may say, hey, I love my job. I love what I do as a physician. I love what I do as a teacher. I love what I do in my business. But what happens if you become disabled, God forbid, or something happens to one of your loved ones, or your house burns down, or so, you have some major thing that all of a sudden is just going to make life very difficult. Do you have enough income in that if you needed to stop working, you could? And that's where I think we don't really plan for those things and to be able to have availability to do those things, just really to be available for life and the people in our lives.
We brought up investments, returns, positive and negative strategies. Are you having conversations with these groups about people's relationship with money? If so, would you describe how that goes?
We talk about it. I think a lot of times it centers around goals and values. So a lot of people will say, I really want financial freedom. That's a term people use a lot. Financial freedom. What does that even mean? What's financial freedom? Okay, you have enough money. What does that mean? What I really think it means is that you have time freedom. You have enough money coming in. You've got enough resources. It could be you have a nest egg of a certain amount. I like income because you're generating cash flow and it doesn't draw down the principal. Really, when it comes down to money, it's what do people value? What do they want? What are the things in their life they're trying to create for themselves, their family, their kids, their legacy, their causes they believe in? I think money is deeply spiritual, not in the sense money itself, but our interaction toward money is deeply spiritual. Whatever we value is going to come out. And they say that money, if you just take somebody and you give them $1 billion, they're going to become more so what they were. If they were a jerk, they're going to be a jerk with money. If they're a wonderful person and they're a philanthropist, they're going to be very philanthropic. They're going to be these things that are going to be drawn out. Sometimes we will get down to people with really, is money, what is the value of money? I look at it like it's just something we're a steward of. We're able to do those things that we want to do with it. And sometimes we can use it to do things that we enjoy. Obviously, it opens up a lot of doors, but it is tricky with money because you'll see people, if they make it their highest goal, then they'll trample other people to get it. They'll start making compromises. And so I think there's got to be other values than just money as security. But I do think money is a tool that we can use to help others, and we can use it to help our families and help ourselves.
Bronson, you mentioned one of the causes that you care most about is ending human slavery. I was hoping you'd share with us how you go about doing that and what role money plays in that.
My sister was really involved in this cause for a while, and she had an event. There's a woman speaker who was there named Christine Kane. Christine Kane is an author and has operations in 15 countries. She runs an organization called A21, the letter A and then 21, the number. And they rescued a girl in Greece. And she was telling a story, and really traumatic, went into this girl from North Africa, was smuggled into Europe, and how she was treated, just absolutely terrible. And so when she was being rescued, sometimes they don't realize they're being rescued. They don't know if you're a trafficker as well or whatever. When she finally realized she was being rescued, just with tears in her eyes, she said to Christine, "Why didn't you come sooner?" And then Christine, stopped and looked back and said, "Well, we didn't come sooner because we didn't know you were here. But now that we know, we'll do everything we can to help you and other girls like you." And so just something in my heart just kind of broke in that moment. I have a daughter who's 12, and there's nothing I wouldn't do. I think like the movie Taken or things like that, where it's like you go and try to, in reality, it's not usually like the movie where it's a Western, somebody's kidnapped. It does happen, but it's just not as common. There's a lot of people that are in sexual or labor slavery in different parts of the world. A lot of times the family just doesn't have resources to get them out. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, 20 to 40 million people today, most of them never get out. And the more I learn about it, the more complex it is. A lot of it's the cycle of trauma. People just need healing. They just need to get well. Otherwise, the stuff gets passed down. And so the more I learn about it, again, there are causes that are doing great work here. International Justice Mission is one. There's all kinds of local causes. I live in Los Angeles, so there's causes here. But every city of the world, every country of the world, this stuff takes place. It is something that I continue to try to give time and effort and money toward because it's a cause that's worth living and dying for.
It's almost inconceivable, those numbers. Thanks for sharing your approach. What do you think that does to you, having such a focus on your purpose for what you want to go and solve? Does that help you from your overall approach to life and money?
It does. It really is very centering. I think there should be a purpose beyond ourselves that we're doing a lot of this for in the wealth world. I think it does kind of set someone apart, that if it's apparent the person is not doing it just for their own, so they can get a bigger boat or a bigger house or a bigger whatever. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those things. I just think it's much more powerful to say, hey, this is a cause I believe in. This is what I'm really standing for. There's that saying that the greatest way for evil to persevere in the world is for good men to do nothing. There's so many things like that. Someone should do something. Well, why not me? Why not you? And then maybe so, everybody's cause is going to be a different cause, or many people have different causes that they believe in. Just like having a family, me having a daughter, having community that I'm involved with and different friends, those things are very centering. But I do think a cause like that is, hey, when I get to $1 billion, when I get to $100 million, whatever, to be able to say, hey, I've got these causes and things that I really want to impact, and there's a purpose for it. How much do you really need? If you're an individual, even if you live in California, do you really need more than $5 million to actually really be able to live the rest of your life? Probably not. But anything above that can be, hey, is this something that I can use to really impact things that are beyond myself, that really the world would be a better place? And not just for ego, not just so that you can have your name on a building or you can have to some cause, which I think there's nothing wrong with that, but just so that the world can be a bit better after you leave.
Bronson, based on what you've been sharing with us, there's a large argument of you don't need to wait until you get to any dollar threshold. If you're making decisions with your money, and if that includes giving it away to causes that you care most about, that's going to provide a lot of satisfaction and meaning to your life. Why would you want to wait to do that?
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us, what is your next money conversation going to be, and who is it going to be with?
My second book I'm in the process of writing now. It's called Rich Brain. It's how the wealthy change their brain to change their bank account. So it's basically what are the mindsets and habits around money from those 2,500 interviews I've had. And so those are conversations I'm unpacking that I've had that I'm trying to be able to really share in that book. So sometime in 2025, the book will come out. So I'm looking forward to be able to share that. Also, on a day in, day out basis, there's conversations with my daughter about money. And it's something as simple as I'll walk in her room and there's a dollar bill on the floor. I was like, oh, look, $1. Just little things to talk about it, or what can we do with certain things, or give in a certain way, and just have those conversations I think are really valuable.
So good. Congratulations on your second book. That is fantastic. And I love the conversations you're having with your daughter. Share with our listeners, where's the best place to find you?
I have a free gift for your audience. We have a guide of how to use inflation to your advantage. They say inflation is low, but we know over time it's only going to continue. So there's a way using real estate and debt, even things like precious metals. And there's just some outside the box ways that we've discovered to be able to use inflation so that it doesn't just hit you at the pump and at the grocery store in a negative way, but it can actually be a positive. And so if you text the word inflation to 33777, so you text the word inflation to 33777, we'll send you that free guide. It's 40 pages. And also we'll get you in touch with some of our future stuff that we're doing.
Thanks, Bronson. That's a great gift. And it's been a gift talking with you on Money Tales.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the Money Tales podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you think would benefit from listening. And leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your ratings and reviews help more people find our podcast. If you're inspired to gain clarity and peace of mind about financial matters, don't hesitate to reach out to our team at Aspiriant. Go to aspiriant.com/start a dialogue. Or you can email Sandy and me at podcasts@aspiriant.com. See you next time.